by Jitendra Bhargava, former ED of Air India. Good evening to you, Mr. Bhargava. First of all, please make us understand how big the disturbance can be. Earlier also it has happened, like in situations like these, the first thing that Pakistan closes is naturally its airspace. How big the problem can be for the flyers and Indian Airlines?
Air India is the major operator to Europe and United States, and of course the other carriers fly to the Middle East, Gulf countries, and all of them would be impacted, particularly the flights which are originating from North India. They will have to take a detour, skirt Ahmedabad, and then get onto the Arabian Sea and move to the Gulf countries. That is how it's going to be happening. Since Air India operates a lot of non-stop flights with 15 hours and 16 hours of flying time, Air India will have to make a technical halt for refueling. It is in this context that the DGCA has issued a guideline that the passengers must be made aware of, that there will be a technical halt instead of a non-stop flight from India to the United States. That's one. So it will naturally mean a longer flying time, more fuel burn for the Indian carriers, and this would happen and you can't wish it away. Now, I would like as an airline person to look, when the Pahalgam horrific tragedy took place, there was total outrage in the country, and the countrymen demanded from the government stern action, exemplary action, and the government did initiate. So the natural retaliatory action of Pakistan was, as they've done it on previous occasions, was to close the airspace for Indian carriers. Now, what happens is that the airlines are playing a part with no role that they have got because of the longer flying hours that they're compelled to do so. So my appeal as a former airline person to the traveling public particularly, that when you are buying a ticket, do take into consideration the fact that Air India, Indigo, and other airlines are taking a longer time to reach the destination as compared to the foreign airlines who will have access to the Pakistan airspace. So ignore this part. Our airlines do deserve a helping hand from the countrymen, considering the very fact that it is a rising out of affirmative action taken by the government as demanded by the countrymen. So the airline shouldn't be a loser. In fact, when the load factor comes in, you find a lot of people have opted because a particular airline was taking half an hour, 45 minutes less. For the non-stop flight to the United States, of course, it'll be something like 2 hours extra, not only for going to West, but the flights coming into India also, whether they take en route at Vienna, Copenhagen, or one of the Gulf countries who are refueling, it will have a financial impact on the airlines too. So let us not compound it by punishing the airlines, punishing, I'm using the word deliberately, by saying that, look, XYZ foreign airline, which has access to Pakistan airspace, takes a shorter time. So let me prefer that.
Right. Right. Mr. Bhargava, quickly, can you tell us what kind of financial implication it will have for the airline and passenger? Like what percentage or what increase in airfare will have it for passengers as well?
Let's look at this way. The former civil aviation minister, in a reply to a question in Parliament in 2019, when the airspace was closed for as long as 5 months, had put the figure of loss at 500 plus crores. Now, that was in 2019. Much depends on what the prevailing fuel price is. But let us not forget that the number of flights that are being operated to the Western countries has gone up multiple fold since 2019. So the loss will be there. There's no denying the fact. But the better part is that fuel at the moment is relatively lower. So there was some kind of a cushioning effect that will come in. Now, question, when it comes to fare, let me be very categorical. While the airline would spend more money in operational cost, but the fares are determined by the market dynamics. On their own, they will not be able to increase fares to offset the cost of fuel, because in a competitive environment with the multiple options available to a passenger, you really can't jack up the prices to overcome the additional costs that the airline will have to bear.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bhargava, for putting things into perspective this evening on this special news story on the airlines and the detour they have to make.